And now for the main act. Are we ready for retail? It's a question we need to think about if we hope to get retail services in downtown. Here to talk about downtown is Midge McCauley, principal of the company Downtown Works. Ms. McCauley has been a force in urban retail since her days working with developer Jim Rouse. Her breadth of experience in retail, private development, corporations, and urban planning may make her uniquely able to rebuild retail sectors in cities like Columbus. Please welcome Midge McCauley.
Thank you, Cleve. It's a pleasure to be here today, and I certainly am thrilled to see all of you champions of downtown out here in the audience. And without your support, our downtowns couldn't be anywhere close to what they are today. But I'm here to talk about somewhat Downtown Works. We are a retail consulting firm, and we travel across the country working in cities of various sizes and in different states of retail. And my colleague, Kelly Cost, who's sitting out there in the audience, works with me. And we have a grand time going to cities. And collectively, we have had experience in retail leasing. We've been store owners. Kelly owned a restaurant. So we've worn a variety of hats. We've been there as tenants. We've been there as landlord advocates. But now today we're primarily city advocates, and let's get the retail in our cities right. But in order to do that, we have to understand what the retail trends of today are and what are the real estate trends for retail. So, first of all, the death of bricks and mortar retail has been greatly exaggerated. We have found that that's really fiction. That bricks and mortar are alive and well. There's been a major impact on bookstores and music stores, but anything that you need to try on or go and sit on or test, you're still going to the stores to do that, and you're doing that in a big way. Clicks to bricks, okay? We've had a lot of online retailers come on board in the world of retail in the not too distant past. But many of those retailers are today doing bricks and mortar. As a matter of fact, Amazon opened its first retail store just 2 weeks ago. And that's going to be first of many that you're going to see around the country. And Warby Parker, that's featured up here, is an optical store. And they did their online business, decided they needed to be exposed through bricks and mortar. They opened their first 8 stores and averaged $3,000 a square foot in sales. And right here in your own downtown with Zeros, you have a retailer who's bricks and mortar and online as well. 90% of sales take place in stores. Now, we're probably going to see, a greater importance of the internet to stores, but basically, that's just to support the bricks and mortar. So the 95% of all sales today are occurring with retailers that do both. They're online and they're on the street or they're in a shopping center. So if you want to be successful in retail, you need to do both. Now, anchors. Anchors used to be our traditional department stores. Right now, there are only probably 4 department stores in the country that are expanding to any great extent. So we don't have the opportunity to have these large stores in our downtowns. So what's replacing them? In many cases, cultural institutions, libraries, places where people go for a cultural event. They're located primarily in our major downtowns. But food has now become the new black. Putting food together and in clusters is serving as the advanced team for retail, but it's also serving as anchors to our downtowns. Interesting that restaurant sales have now outpaced sales in grocery stores. People are eating out at night 3-4 times a week, and they're spending a whole lot less in the grocery stores. Stores are commingling and co-locating with one another, and you have an operator who has decided to create his own food court within his space that will, have one chef-driven operation who might do 4 different concepts within one space. And we're seeing more and more of that in all of the places that we visit. We also have retailers that are subletting to other retailers. In this case, Ron Robinson, who's a great retailer out in Santa Monica, California, had the local florist who was considered the best florist in the area. The rent was going up, so he said, well, why don't you come into my store and we'll work together? And you're going to see more and more of this cooperative type of retailing occurring in Columbus and in other places around the country. Retailers are right-sizing their stores. Some are getting bigger, some are getting smaller. We've all seen over our lifetimes the Gap as well as the Limited go from small stores up to 20,000 square foot stores, and now they're back down again. And so they're constantly reinventing themselves and resizing themselves. So, and we're seeing that same phenomena in restaurants as well. 5,000 square feet used to be the magic number for a restaurant. Now it's closer to 3,000 square feet. Men gaining on women's. Men's sales and the growth of men's sales outpacing that in the women's apparel. The men are wearing skinny pants. They're wearing tighter jackets with shorter sleeves. They're mixing it up between suiting and more casual clothing when they're going to work. And it has become a very, very successful business, and those that are appealing to the workplace as well as casual wear are the ones who are thriving in the area. Fast fashion. We have the H&Ms, the Forever 21s, who are very, very fast forward in their fashion attitudes, but they're also very inexpensive. In some cases, we call it throwaway clothing. But what they have done is they are guaranteeing that their customers are going to come back every season and buy clothing, and they're forced to be reckoned with. Athleisure. Yoga pants have taken over denim, and they're wearing them all day long. You have yoga pants on with your sneakers in the morning. You put your flats on during the day, and at 5 o'clock, the high heels go on for cocktails. And it's a phenomena that has been proven by the growth of a store called Lululemon, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. And we're seeing more stores like that crop up as well. Health, wellness, and beauty. Very big. Used to be just beauty, but now it's about all kinds of, taking good care of your skin or any kind of rash that you might have. And the birth of one of these retailers, Birchbox. Birchbox has a membership. This is a phenomenal business model where members pay $10 a month to have Birchbox ship you samples of cosmetics that if you went to the department store, you could probably get for free. But now what they've done is they've opened their first retail store where they're selling the products that they have sent out to their million customers. And they started a division for men. They said, okay, well, women are interested in it, so are the men. And we expect that the women are going to be buying these products for their men. Well, they came to find out that 50% of the members for that Birch Beauty Box are men themselves. So retailers want to be on the streets. They're in the malls. If they had their druthers and they had a street that was active and was in good condition, typically the rents are less expensive. They prefer to be on the streets. And when we think of cities, their activity and their life comes from their streets. The retailers want to be there, and that's all of them. There is a huge movement, and it's amongst our millennials, which I will talk about at a later time, but to shop local. They want not only to go to local merchants, but nowadays they're wanting goods that are made here in the United States and aren't coming from outside our country. So, and this local movement is being supported in a great way by American Express. And you're going to find, I think it's the Saturday after Thanksgiving, that will be the big shop local promotion around the country. And it has grown exponentially over the last few years. So this is a phenomenon that's not going anywhere. But design is crucial to any of these retailers that you want to have in your downtown. How your downtown looks is really, really important. And today, mixed use is the genre of development that's occurring in our urban areas. This was 20 years ago something that the banks had no idea how to finance. Now today, mixed use is far more prevalent than single-use buildings. But what we have to do is we have to make sure that the people that are designing what's happening at the street level are retail architects and designers and know what retailers want and what looks good for retail. Looking at buildings where from the top to bottom you have to differentiate the upper uses from the lower uses. This is a project in Washington, D.C. that has contemporary apartments above more traditional looking storefronts that complement the area in which you find these stores. You know, and this was done by two different designers working for one developer. The stores, from store to store, they have to have their own individual attention. No two storefronts, no two stores should look alike. You want that differentiation. And, oh, please, let's avoid the strip center silver storefronts. We're working on the redo of design guidelines for a major city where the designers that are part of the group are suggesting that the city not even allow these to occur in their downtown. So, and that will be a first, I'm sure. But what we're attempting to do, and what's a big force in what's happening in retail today, are the millennials. And millennials are people that were born between 1980 and 2000. And they are a very, very large group of the workforce today, 1 out of 3 people. Within the next 10 years, it'll be 3 out of 4 people will be in this category. And what do we know about this group? Well, we know that when they turn 16 and can get a driver's license, within a year, only 44% of those people are getting their driver's licenses. 2 years later, it's maybe 70% of this group that is wanting to drive a car. They're riding bicycles, they're using zip cars, they're going to their app for Uber cars. They're finding other ways to drive rather than having their own individual car. They're delaying marriage. They're having pets instead of children. I think the number that I had read was about 72% of this group have some sort of pet. And so that's why we've seen a great increase in pet stores. Every community should have them. But I think one of the more interesting segments of this group is that men are enjoying shopping. And it's about 90% of them that enjoy shopping. And of those, almost 40% of them love to do it. And they talk about the research that's been done on this group, that it's really the socialization that people, that have brought the men out of the house and into the stores. He's probably looking for girls, or guys for that matter. Now, downtown housing. Downtown housing has to come in all sizes. There's been a great push to build smaller apartments because that's what the millennials want. But we're also seeing the empty nesters move into downtown. And they don't want the small spaces as much. The millennials are trading space for place. They're willing to go into a much smaller unit to be in a downtown, where the empty nester is willing to downsize from the big home that they've had out in the suburbs or in the close-in neighborhoods, but they still want a decent size. So if you're developing residential, have a variety of sizes available. Now, in retail, it's all about the experience. It's not just about buying merchandise. It's about what's the experience like when you go to the store. And the store up here on your left is out of Oklahoma City, and it's called Plenty. And it's a wonderful store, and the first floor is extremely well merchandised, and there's something for everybody in that store to buy. But what happens when you go up the steps to the rooftop? There's a garden. There's an outdoor space that is heavily used for classes. They do education up there. They hold parties. They have cocktail parties. We were there one evening when they were doing specialty creative cocktails that was being sponsored by a local distillery. And they sold out of space for that long before the event. The other store on the right is in LA, where it's nice and warm all year round. And this is a company called Aether, which is selling outerwear for very cold climates. So in order to figure out whether you want one of their jackets, they have a freezer in the center of the store. And you walk into the freezer, and it's 8 degrees Fahrenheit in that. And it has Adirondack chairs and lounge chairs and bear rugs, and in you go, put on your jacket, sit in there, see how warm you feel after spending 10 or 15 minutes inside the freezer. It's all about the experience. Retailers that have been around for years, or even new retailers that haven't been around for that many years, have to stay relevant. They have to evolve with whatever the trends are, and the trends change constantly. And we're looking at Nordstrom. Nordstrom is now putting cocktail bars in their stores so that you can have martinis and shop. And I guarantee you, more people shop, the more martinis they have. And as they remodel certain floors in their buildings, this is where you're going to find these martini bars. Columbus, we haven't been here 48 hours, and we've had a whirlwind tour of the greater area looking at retail. We went out to Easton Town. We've been to your close-in neighborhoods, and we've been in downtown. And we've seen some really good retail, and we've seen some that is not terrific. We've seen storefronts that are well done. We've seen some that are just very poorly maintained and need to be replaced. We've seen signs that are good. We've seen signs that are bad. What's consistent is that the signage is inconsistent. And so we think downtown has potential. And how do you get your retail better than it is today and where you want it to be is taking, your greatest assets, your authenticity. You're a real downtown. You're not a make-believe downtown. You happened over years, not overnight. You're dense. You have the densest population, daytime population of any place in the area, and maybe even the state of Ohio, with 84,000 people working down here during the day. Your residential population is not large. It's 7,800 people, but it's certainly larger than it used to be, and it's growing, and the demand for downtown housing will continue to grow, and especially as the millennials, more millennials are coming downtown to work, more of them are going to come downtown to live, and you need to build and leverage your downtown on this authenticity and its density. And where do you start this? I mean, how do you get this going? And we think everything has to start with a vision and a plan. You have to know what you want to be, and you have to decide where it is that you want to be, and you need to create a plan and decide what kinds of stores and services and restaurants that you want to have in your downtown. And you have to build friendships with all the building owners and the developers as they're working on downtown. And you have to focus your efforts. You have to decide where it is that you want to be and work on that area. Generally, it's where you think you have the greatest chance of success in the near future. You don't choose an area that has very little going for it and decide that that's going to be your main focus. It starts in the center, it radiates out. You need to know who your market is. But you know, it's not just numbers. It's not how much people make. It's what their lifestyle is and how they spend their money. And you look up here at these two gentlemen, and demographically, they're almost identical in their income, their education level, number of former wives. And yet you will not find them living in the same neighborhood, nor would you find them shopping in the same neighborhood. So who are these customers? You got to figure out who they are. And that's looking at the psychographics, which is essentially the lifestyle. And something about the millennials, while they're young and they're not at the peak of their earning years, they spend every penny on themselves. It's all about me. So they're great customers to have. They're great. It's a great population. Now, once you figure out where you want to focus, who it is you're going to go after, then what kinds of stores you want to have, which is called a merchandise mix plan. Every developer that's doing large shopping centers, those stores don't happen by chance. That combination of retailers that you're clustering together doesn't happen by chance. That's planned. And then you have to go out and find the operators. You don't lease space by putting signs in windows and sit back and wait for the phone to ring. Chances are you're not going to get the people you want. You have to be very aggressive about finding the right retailers for your downtown. And so a combination of the look and the feel of downtown, the mix of operators, having special events and great activities going on, and you've got the arts and the culture in your downtown. And this whole experience will draw people from the greater metropolitan area. You need the greater metropolitan area to support downtown and to make it all that it can be. Well, you know, how has this worked in other places where we've been? And so we chose two examples of cities that we've worked in. They're very similar to Columbus in their makeup, in that they are state capitals, they have major universities, and they had some retail conditions in their central business districts that were less than ideal. And Nashville today now has about a little over 8,000 downtown residents, so they too have been growing their downtown residential population, very similar to yours. And they have 57,000 employees, and you have 84, so much smaller. But in their downtown, when their recruitment program started, when they started actively going after retailers, once they had decided who it was they wanted to go after, within the first 4 years of their program, they had 48 new retailers in downtown Nashville. And most of them, not all, but most of them were compliant with the plan. And so, you know, kudos to them for the hard work that they've done. Austin, Texas, another city very similar in makeup to you and in the university, it's state capital. Austin has a few more downtown residents than you. They're now up to 11,000, and they have about 1,000 units under construction, so they'll soon be probably another, you know, 1,500 residents downtown within the next year. But they started out, their main street is Congress Avenue. Congress Avenue in Austin is similar to High Street here in Columbus. And when we did a qualitative assessment of downtown Austin, we looked at 85 storefronts, and of those 85, only 13 of them either were serving food or had any merchandise in them. So the rest were office spaces, city offices, banks, and other services. So what had once been this great retail street, the heart of Texas, was no longer. And they've had a recruitment program going on and aggressively going after retailers. And they've taken that 13, and it's closer to 40 retailers now on the street. And that has, so that has grown, and it's unbelievable the changes that have occurred. Now, they have a ways to go, because they still have another 45 spaces that they're going to want to turn into restaurants or stores. But they're well on their way. And at that, you know, I think I'm finished talking to you about what we think's important with retail, what kinds of conditions you want in downtown, and kind of what would be the next steps for you to make sure that your downtown becomes the best. We know that the Short North is great. And we want your downtown to be as equally as successful, or maybe even more so. So with that, I thank you for the opportunity to spend time here.